how it all came about for me. So I know some of you all know me. Some of you all are brand new to me. So you don't really know a lot about me. So I'm going to share with you just a little bit about my story and how I came to understand that books were one of the most powerful tools that we have in humankind, point blank, period. So let me take you back. It's 2008. I'm in Western Michigan University. I just finished my master's in anthropology. Okay. Now, if any of you all are familiar with academia, you know that in order for me to graduate, I had to do what? I had to write. I had to write a lot of papers. And at the end, I had to write a thesis. So my thesis was based on a study that I had been doing for, I think, like maybe over a year. I had invested my time into this study. And my study in particular was around my community. Okay. So I was looking at single Muslims, and I wanted to study why it was difficult for many single Muslims to get married. That was my topic of my research. Now, because I was doing my research, a lot of people asked me, about what came about. Like, what did you know? What did you know? Now, for those of you who are familiar with thesis, right, you know that typically what happens when you finish your thesis, where does it go? You get a copy and you keep your copy on your bookshelf or something. And then the other one ends up collecting dust in the university library. That's just it. That's just what happens. So I'm there. People knew I was doing my study. And so I would tell them like, oh, yeah. After they asked me, I would be like, yeah, I have my thesis. You can read my thesis. And they were like, okay. Like nobody was excited about reading my thesis. I'm like, I put like years, I put my blood, my sweat, and my tears into this thesis. And when I would be telling them about it after they asked me for the results, nobody was interested in actually reading my thesis because a thesis was not sexy enough, right? That didn't excite them. So I'm like, okay, dang, Z, like, what am I going to do? I cannot keep responding to all of these emails individually. Like, my fingers are going to fall off. This ain't going to work. This is for the birds. So I was trying to figure out like how I could get my message out there on a bigger stage, right, to more people without me having to do it all one by one individually, because that was not what was up. It wasn't happening anymore. Okay. So I decided that I was going to take my thesis and I was going to turn it into a book, because for some reason, people were more excited about the book than they were about my thesis. Thesis wasn't really hooking them in. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Only people I knew that were authors were like my professors, and they had all been published by an academic press. So I said, okay, let me look at the academic presses, see if I can submit this or whatever. So some people were talking about I had to have an agent. I was like, no, dude, I already did this. I did this with my committee. I'm done. I'm done with that. I don't need any more gatekeepers. I'm done. And then other folks were talking about, okay, I could submit, but it was going to take like maybe 2 years in order for this book to come out. And I was like, that's not going to work either. You want me to email one by one, like for 2 years and then be like, here's the book? Like, I was like, no, like that's not going to work for me. I'm done with this project. I'm done. I want to get it out. Like, I need another way. Enter self-publishing. So I learned from doing that research that, okay, self-publishing, I could put my book out the way I wanted to on my own time, and I would own 100% of the royalties. I would own the complete message. There were no gatekeepers necessary or any of that. I could get it out like on my own schedule when I wanted to. But the problem was, I didn't know anything about self-publishing. Like, none of my professors had done that. I knew nothing about self-publishing. So what did I do? Like every smart person, I hit up Google and I hit up YouTube. I literally was like consuming every video, every website about how to self-publish, how to get your book out there, how to make it an Amazon bestseller. I purchased like book after book after book after book after book on self-publishing. I literally like learned everything, right, that I could about self-publishing. Now, I didn't know about investing in courses back then. I didn't know about getting a coach or a mentor or anything back then. The only thing I knew was that if I wanted to learn something, I should just try to get it all by myself. Now, that's good and that's also bad. It's good because I was exposed to a lot of different information, but it's bad because some of that information was conflicting. And then I ended up like spinning my wheels and being stuck a lot just trying to get it all done. But in the end, I published my very first book, which was this, Jihad of the Soul, right? So all I'm going to be sharing with you today kind of leads back to this book right here. It was Jihad of the Soul, Singlehood and the Search for Love in Muslim America. My thesis became a book and people actually wanted to read it, right? They actually wanted to read it. It was just magical what happened when I actually published that book. I wasted a lot of time. Yes, I wasted a lot of money, on the publishing process because I didn't know what I was doing, but in the end, I was able to publish this book and I was so excited, and people around me were also just so excited about what I was able to put out for my community, right? For my community. So now that led me down the path to becoming a paid speaker, which is what I am right now. Okay. So that book, Jihad of the Soul, people started seeing it. I took it to a conference. I literally sold out at that conference. From that conference, my name started to be like a real name. I wasn't just like a nobody anymore. Nobody's a nobody. I am somebody, nobody's a nobody. But I went from being like a total unknown into someone that people were asking to come and speak, right? Asking to do seminars and webinars, not webinars at that time, seminars and workshops and things. So they were asking me to do this. And some of it was free in the beginning, but then I started making some money. People were paying me. They were like, oh, we'll pay you $100 to come and speak. I was like, get it, $100. Hey, I get to come and speak about this thing and I get paid $100. That was like some big money back then. So I was really excited about just the organic, beautiful movement that was happening in my life because of this publishing, right? So I started getting interviewed and that led to more and more exposure. Now, from that book, I started doing other publications. So this is my calendar. It's called Beautifully Wrapped. So Beautifully Wrapped is a calendar that I produced. And that publication there literally built an entire movement. Like I have thousands of people on our email list. We have thousands of people every year that reach out to us all because of these publications that I began to do.